Happy Wednesday morning and welcome to the Oakland County Megacast. I'm Tyler Keefe in the studios of 89.3 Lakes FM and Civic Center TV. In addition, as always, today we're on Birmingham Area Municipal Access, all of our TV channels on Comcast Channel 15 and AT&T Channel 99. We're also on the radio, as always, Lakes FM over there on your TV screen, and on 88.1 WBFH. The Biff. And as always, joining me from her home studio is Ronnie Dahl.
I will say, Tyler, I like how you say our family of TV and radio stations because this morning I've been trying to reach out to some of the former members or current members of the media that covered Kwame Kilpatrick and his case extensively through the years to see if we could get them on the show. And as you can imagine, it's a very busy news day. Here in the D, we have the inauguration, but also we have all the events happening in Lansing, but then that bombshell of news over the evening hours about Kwame Kilpatrick, of course, the former mayor of the city of Detroit, and his sentence being commuted. Not pardoned, because we are hearing a lot of people say he was pardoned. He was not pardoned, and there's a difference. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But, but there are like, what are you doing now? Public access? And when you try to explain the megacast, and I really feel like this is kind of the future of the broadcast industry, is we are going to be able to utilize like radio, TV, as well as social media to be able to get out the news and various platforms, because the landscape and the news world is changing right now, Tyler.
Yeah, it's a lot different, and as you've mentioned many times before, and as we've talked about a lot over the course of our time co-hosting this show together, it's a lot different in the mainstream news, locally, certainly nationally, where you can have just a few set minutes with a given person to get a lot of details out in a very short amount of time that really doesn't even get those major details, the who, what, when, where, why, and how necessarily out of there in enough detail for everybody to really understand and get an in-depth look. So they have to do more research on their own as a viewer, as a media literate person viewing the news, whereas in this format, we are able to get a lot of those details out in great detail. We're able to dig in deeper, ask all those who, what, when, where, why, and how questions, and follow up on those answers as well, so that people can get a full scope of things. So I think as we do go forward, and we'll continue to see the traditional news as we've always had it, but I think that on the side, a lot of these news organizations, and certainly us here at Civic Center TV and our other stations that join us on the show each and every day, and as well as our Facebook partners, including the West Bloomfield Fire Department today, that we're going to see a lot of this kind of content being given on the side so that people do have more details and can get greater transparency from those in power and those in the news.
But there is a lot of news happening. Obviously, today is Inauguration Day in our nation's capital, but we all sat in stunned disbelief as we watched the events unfold with the insurrection at the nation's capital on January 6th. 2 weeks later, Biden is going to be sworn in as the 46th president of the United States of America. I've been watching the coverage all morning of President Trump leaving the White House for the last time. And historic moments, I believe, today. But you also look to the future. Hopefully, the new administration brings with it somewhat a unity message, but we do also have to understand this was a close election. Yeah. So it's going to be a big task for Biden to be able to bring the nation together, because I will say Trump, while he seems to have been quietly going away, that is not in his manner for the people, or so say the people that know him. In fact, they're saying that the movement, he said in a video that he released, the movement that we started is only just beginning. Some of the thoughts on social media is that Trump and members of his his supporters are going to try to start a third party in the United States. And it's not to say we do have other parties. We want to let them know. We have, people are independents, but another party that could be a major player in the elections. And that's going to be interesting because I do think it's where he goes from here, because we have not heard the last of President Trump.
No, we have not, and it's a good point mentioning his members of his family and mentioning what President Trump had said in his recorded farewell address that was released yesterday, that this movement that him and his team have begun is only just starting. You also think about all the funds that he raised since the election. Those are political funds that he can use to influence either the Republican Party, other candidates, if he does begin a new third party with his current crew of people in the future. He's going to continue to have political influence. But what I've also liked seeing, and this was mentioned on a few different news outlets that I was watching this morning as I was watching this coverage, seeing the president exit the White House, make his farewell address ad-libbed at Joint Air Force Base Andrews in Maryland. A good point that I heard from these news outlets was that even in Joe Biden's address after he was announced projected the winner of the 2020 election, was this recurring theme he had of let's give each other a chance. And I think in the context of what we've seen in the last 2 weeks here in the United States, certainly since January 6th, that's something I think we're going to hear a lot more from President-elect Biden and soon-to-be President Biden and his administration, as he's shown in the past in his career, an ability to reach across the aisle and at least listen and at least give people that have different points of view than him the light of day. And in the times that we're in, I think that's something we can all strive to do, and whether or not it happens depends on the leadership, not only in the White House, but in all other levels of government, federally and statewide, of course, as well.
So, of course, as one of his last measures and moments here in the White House and his power as presidency, the Trump did send out the memo, and he signed the orders to pardon and also commute the sentences of dozens of people, amongst them Lil Wayne, but also some of his political allies as well. We saw Steve Bannon. He was also pardoned. A lot of people were expecting that he was going to issue pardons for himself as well as members of his families. And I'm not sure of the precedence of that. Can you actually do that if no charges have been brought? And you have to also keep in mind, these are federal charges. They do not apply to state charges. He does not have that power. But the biggest news in Metro Detroit is definitely coming about Kwame Kilpatrick. Now, Kwame did make the argument to Obama requesting a pardon. However, Obama did not grant that. And so in one of his last acts, Kwame Kilpatrick was indeed included amongst the individuals that had their sentences not pardoned, but he was offered a commutation. So what that means is basically you're not free and clear. And I'm wondering too, as someone who covered Kwame for years, for people who don't understand too, I used to be a researcher back in the day for Steve Wilson, who was the big investigative reporter for WXYZ and Channel 7, and his investigations and confrontations with Kwame Kilpatrick, as well as his administration, they're really kind of legendary here in the state of Michigan. So I have read that report back and forth. The Michigan State Police did do the investigation into Kwame Kilpatrick, as well as the alleged party that happened at the Michiganders mansion and all of the other events that unfolded around the mayor. I was a big part of that and behind the scenes at the time. And it really is fascinating to me that he is now going to be released. But we did think, because we know Pete Carmanos, who lives here locally and within the greater West Bloomfield area, was a big advocate going to Trump. He's a Trump supporter and has connections with Trump. And he went to Trump earlier this year to say, hey, Kwame needs a pardon. And it didn't happen under Obama, who was a Democrat, and Kwame was a Democrat. His mother, we have to remember, Carolyn Cheeks Kilpatrick, was a long-time politician as well, with a very powerful position within the Democratic Party. It did not happen under her. It happened under Trump, a Republican, and he is going to be released from prison about 20 years earlier than his sentence. So it's all very fascinating to me as someone who was behind the scenes for years on the Kwame Kilpatrick investigation.
Yeah, it's something we're going to be hearing a lot about in the Metro Detroit area and throughout the state of Michigan in the coming days as the story continues to develop. What's going on with Kwame as he does come home from his imprisonment. But that being said, as you had mentioned, this is not a pardon. He is not free and clear of these crimes, and even though he's getting out over 20 years early, he's not eligible to run for office until the entire length of his sentence has been cleared.
So I will tell you with that, I do believe if Kwame came back to Detroit and ran for mayor, if he was eligible, he would win. He would be reelected. He is one of the most charismatic public speakers I have ever heard in my entire life. And I think that he could come back and he could run for reelection. Mayor Duggan, though, however, is saying Trump did the right thing in this and that Kwame got too much time. A lot of people do believe that. But also, he's not going to be competition for Duggan as he goes ahead into the his bid for re-election for the city of Detroit. With that, though, let's go ahead and jump into the quick headlines because we do have a busy schedule here for you on the Megacast. And with that, 21 shipments of the Moderna's COVID-19 vaccine spoiled because of temperature control issues during delivery to Michigan. That's according to state health officials. Those shipments, which went out January 17th and contained about 11,900 doses of the vaccine, were being transported by McKesson Corp, a healthcare distribution company contracted with the federal government to handle the coronavirus vaccines. Lynn Sufton, she's a spokesperson for the state of health department. We've had her on the show before, said no one was actually injected with any of the spoiled doses of the vaccine. So that is good news that it did not go into the arms of any individuals. However, of course, there have been issues with vaccines and distribution of the vaccines and simply not being enough of the supply. That is the downside of this. On top of that, though, Michigan's health director says there is strong reason to believe that the COVID-19 pause actually worked. So Michigan is in a far better place in its fight against COVID-19 than it was 2 months ago when the state first imposed new restrictions on businesses and schools. According to the leader of Michigan's health department in a Tuesday interview, Robert Gordon, who is the director for the Department of Health and Human Services, said the state remains on a path toward reopening indoor dining at restaurants on the 1st of February. And has gone from having one of the highest coronavirus case rates in the nation to one of the lowest. In recent weeks, Michigan has reported drops in COVID-19 infection rates, deaths, and hospitalizations linked to the virus, and the rate of tests bringing positive results, metrics that have been included in decision-making on whether to strengthen or lift some of these restrictions. But of course, no one can say with certainty what caused the decreases. As we go closer to the first, it'll be interesting to see that those numbers stay in a decline and we're able to reopen, Tyler.
Yeah, and as far as we are indicated, those numbers have been going down gradually as we've reported over the last several weeks during this pause. We have seen that positivity rate of the COVID-19 tests coming back, gradually going further and further towards that 3% threshold. We're still far away from that. We're still in the 5 to 6% range as of now, but it is gradually getting there, and that's good. That's a lot of cause for hope that February 1st benchmark that Governor Whitmer previously set as a date to potentially reopen in-person dining in the state of Michigan to some extent may actually be fulfilled, and that can't come soon enough for those businesses. But as we've seen before, when these regulations are put in place, the numbers have been reacting fairly well to those restrictions and have been reduced. And when they have been removed, we've seen slight increases because people do let their guard down when things are more relaxed. That being said, there is some urgency from the people of Michigan to relax some of these regulations, and hopefully if and when they are relaxed, especially for the in-person dining angle, that people do follow the regulations that remain in place, that people do continue to take those precautions so that we don't have to have another situation where, yet again, these industries are put in a position where they have to shut down in some capacity or another for the betterment of the public health.
And so with that, let's get to our other headline, the big news out of Lansing. Democratic Governor Gretchen Whitmer unveiled a $5.6 billion COVID-19 recovery plan to expand vaccine distribution, help schools resume in-person instruction, and aid businesses and residents across the Michigan. The plan, which relies almost exclusively on federal funding, sets up a potential showdown with Michigan's Republican-led legislator, where House Appropriations Chair Thomas Albert has threatened to block spending requests until the governor eases business restrictions and allows those restaurants to reopen and dining rooms. But in announcing the plan, Whitmer urged cooperation and said the state must act quickly to spend more than $5 billion and new funding from the federal government. Let's all keep in mind, though, people, that's tax dollars. Only $575 million of the spending will come from state coffers. That's according to the new budget director, Dave Massaroon, who noted officials raised tax revenue projections last week because of consumer spending from the federal stimulus packages helped Michigan avoid massive losses that had been anticipated. It is really going to be a tough year ahead, not only though for our businesses, but also for a lot of our government agencies in our cities as they try to balance the budget going forward. I think they could manage those first few months, but we're more than 10 months into this. So the budget is going to be a big issue for so many of our elected leaders. But with that, just as a reminder to everyone, you can find the latest headlines if you go on to civiccentertv.com, click on coronavirus, and at the top, you'll find the latest headlines. But along with that, we also give you direct links to the resources that you need to be able to do some of the research and the reading for yourselves. And that includes the state of Michigan, the CDC, Oakland County, and our local municipalities, because one thing that is happening right now is some of this information is changing not only daily, but sometimes hourly as well. And with that, we do have a great show ahead for you here on the Megacast. And when we come back, we are going to kick off the show with the mayor of Lansing. It's going to be a big day in our nation's capital because this is Inauguration Day. But it's also been a very tense time as well because security has been an issue. So we'll be joining and speaking with the mayor of Lansing when the Oakland County Megacast returns.
Hi, my name is Kurt Lawson, and I'm the Public Information Officer for West Bloomfield Township. We wanted to reach out to you, our older adults, to provide information that you may find useful during this difficult time. We want to ensure you that West Bloomfield Town Hall, our Waters and Utility Department, West Bloomfield Parks, and our police and fire departments continue to work hard on your behalf. Information and resources can be found on the Township website, the police Facebook and Twitter, or call West Bloomfield Park's COVID-19 Help Hotline. Please remember to keep your social distance of at least 6 feet, wear facial coverings when you leave your home, and wash your hands for at least 20 seconds with soap. These precautions will help keep you safe during these difficult times.
As rivals, we don't always see eye to eye.
Like who scored the best recruits?
Who's gonna be who?
And whether we wear green
or blue.
But one thing we can all agree on, to help stop the spread of COVID-19, wear a mask.
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 The ball's in your court, Michigan.
We appreciate you taking time out of your day to tune in to the Megacast. As a reminder, you can always catch us on Civic Center TV, Birmingham Area Municipal Access. If you have channel 15, tune us into Comcast, or if you have Comcast rather, tune us into channel 15. That's what we have here at my house is Comcast. 99 on AT&T, but also 89.3 Lakes FM, 88.1 FM, the Biff. And with that, we have so much to talk about. This is Inauguration Day, but it's not just all about celebrations, because this has not been a typical year, and there has really been no peaceful transfer of power. And that is being felt at cities across the country, but even more so here in the state of Michigan and in the city of Lansing. Joining us now on the Megacast is Andy Schor. He's the mayor for the city of Lansing. We appreciate your time. We know you're very busy today.
It's an exciting day, Ronnie, but it's also a day where we have to be very cautious and prepared.
The good news on the backside of this, we anticipated some violence and protests possibly this past Sunday, and it really kind of fizzled out. There were more members of the media and law enforcement there than some of these militia groups.
Yeah, and I attribute that to preparation. We were prepared. We were hearing all kinds of chatter and rumors and things, getting information from the FBI, and we had the appropriate preparation, and I think it was successful.
Today is a different day. Yeah. It is Inauguration Day. Are there any credible threats that you're aware of right now in the city of Lansing?
The rumors were mostly for Sunday, but there were concerns that things could spill over to later in the week, especially Inauguration Day. So we continue to be prepared. The legislature, they canceled for the week, which I thought was a good move. We still have state police and Lansing police. We don't have Humvees and things like that blocking roads today, but we're still ready in case there are any threats.
But they have done a lot of security prep leading up to today. But how long do you think it's going to carry out as well?
Well, today for sure. We'll probably remove the fencing from City Hall today or tomorrow. I expect the state will as well. We know that not all threats are going to end on Inauguration Day, but between Sunday and today, these were the two biggest days of concern. So we'll continue to be cautious, but I don't know that buildings need to be boarded up and fencing and things like that can come down pretty soon.
Mayor Andy Schor with us here for the city of Lansing. And with that, now I know Michigan State Police, they have a very heavy presence there at the nation's capital. What about the Michigan National Guard? Have they been called in during this time?
Yeah, we asked for the Guard for Sunday and just to be on ready alert today. So again, on Sunday, when you came downtown, you saw Michigan National Guard, you saw equipment and vehicles, you saw state police patrols. So yeah, I requested that from the governor, and she agreed, and it was pretty successful. And again, they're still ready and active today. It's just not the same kind of outward show of force.
And that is one of the things about security. You can't always talk about the specific details because you don't want to give away things to the public. But how tuned in are you as the mayor for the city of Lansing to some of the threats and some of the security protocols that are going on right now in your city?
I'm pretty tuned in. I leave the expert policing to our police chief and to our police force creating the plan, doing the briefings and adopting the appropriate measures, but he keeps me in the loop. We speak often. I've already been in police command today. I spent hours in police command on Sunday. So, I'm there making sure that I understand what's going on. But in terms of the specific mechanics, I leave that to the policing experts. But I am very plugged in, especially with any of the activities we have to do, where kind of the force and things like that, I'm very plugged in.
Yeah, because on the backside of this, when you have additional law enforcement officers on the payroll, that costs money. How concerned are you about the budget? Because we are also in the middle of a pandemic and tax revenue is going to be down. So, I mean, I know that the Biden administration is promising money coming to some of our local governments, which we really haven't seen before in the past. So is the budget a big concern for you as well?
Tremendous concern for me. We are seeing, reduced revenues last year. Just in 3 months, when COVID hit between March and May, we proposed our budget in March. In May, we had to reduce it by $12.5 million. The city of Lansing has about $145 million budget, so that was a big hit for us. And we're expecting revenues to stay down. We're an income tax city, just like Detroit, Grand Rapids, Flint. So when people are working remotely and when they're not working, it affects our income tax. Our property taxes have been mostly stable, which is nice. But I'm certainly concerned about the budget. So when you ask about kind of costs for all of this, certainly we have overtime, we have some equipment costs. The state is taking on the National Guard costs. Our Congresswoman, Alyssa Slotkin, was here on Sunday, and she's working with us for Homeland Security dollars. We're talking to the governor. So we'd like to see some dollars from the state and feds, because we are the capital city and we're taking this on for the state.
Yeah, you mentioned the one thing about requiring people to pay income tax if they work in the city, such as Detroit and other cities. It's going to be an interesting conversation for down the line about how cities such as yours are going to be able to adapt to this. Will companies still be required to pay income tax for individuals that are maybe only coming into the office once a week? That's a later conversation, because there are so many things going on right now. But I would like your insight or your perspective, because you did serve in the House and you have gone into the Capitol. And when we saw what has been unfolding in the nation, or in our state capitol, and the threats against the governor, but also the issue of guns and open carry in the Capitol, that's been playing out in Michigan, in my opinion, for well over the last couple of years. And it just hit the nation's capital, and now everyone is starting to pay attention. When you saw what happened in D.C. on January 6th, what were your initial thoughts? Did you think that could have been us here in Michigan?
I was horrified. I mean, clearly you never think that there is going to be, an attack on democracy, that citizens are going to try and storm the Capitol. When I was in the House, it always made me nervous. Every year we have a Second Amendment rally that comes to town. You get a few hundred people with their big, ARs and their big guns. And they would go into the gallery, and, they're supposed to point their guns down at the floor. That's just, procedure, but then they're almost kind of pointing them at you. It definitely makes you nervous. It definitely can be an intimidation factor. Now, the gun people will say, they are protecting themselves, and a gun owner understands how to carry their gun. And I don't disagree with that, but all you need is one person to do it wrong, one person to make a mistake, one person to get angered or tense, especially when you're there with the legislature voting on bills that they may or may not agree with. You just need that one person to do it wrong, and then you have tragedy. And then when you saw at the nation's capital, where it was more than one person, where the anger overflowed, yeah, it makes you nervous. There's no doubt.
Well, and with that in the nation's capital, be due to the very strict gun laws within the nation's capital, no one had a gun on them. And you wonder if things would have turned out different if they did. I will say, I'm not here to argue the Second Amendment right. I don't know if you know, I used to be the public information officer for the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives. So trust me, if you want to talk about politics and law enforcement, I'm a former reporter who went into the federal life, and I was, let's just say I was dumbfounded. I didn't realize the level of politics in law enforcement, but also surrounding the issue of guns. But with that, I know that they did recently issue the mandate that open carry cannot be allowed within the Capitol. However, it can still be allowed outside of the Capitol, which also means on the streets of Lansing, which you are there to be their elected leader. Your thoughts on that?
Well, there's nothing we can do about open carry in Michigan. I mean, you are allowed to openly carry a gun. That's been the case for many, many years. When I was in the legislature, I actually put in a bill that would close the open carry loophole, but it didn't go anywhere. And that's the way the legislative process works. But there's really not much we can do. Cities, as you know, are preempted from passing anything on guns. So whenever a city tries to do something, it's thrown out. It's just not. We are completely preempted. So, do I like the fact that there are people walking around openly carrying large guns? I've had them come to my house. People carrying large guns in my neighborhood, at my house, on our streets downtown. No, I don't like it. I think there is an intimidation factor that comes along with that. But, again, even as one of 110 members of the House, I wasn't able to get that changed because the majority didn't agree, and that's the law that we have.
I will say with that, and Mr. Mayor, that probably made you not so popular with your neighbors.
Yeah, some of them. That's true. I did get a few texts, I'll tell you that.
With that, this is Inauguration Day. And I think for so many people, this Inauguration Day definitely is getting the attention much more so than those previously in our past. Of course, we're making history with our vice president. But also, what does this mean for you? You are a Democrat, but coming out of the past 4 years, but also coming out of a pandemic, because these are challenging times. What does today mean for you?
Yeah, I'm really excited. I'm excited to see the new start, the new beginning. Joe Biden, he's a moderate Democrat. He's someone that can work on both sides of the aisle. He's already put forward a rescue plan which recognizes the needs of cities, of people. I'm really very excited for the way that he's hitting the ground running. The people have made their decision, and we all have to come together. You talk about the pandemic, that's our common enemy. Our common enemy should be the virus. So I'm excited for his style of leadership. It's very similar to mine. It's cooperative, it's bringing everybody in, it's working together. He's going to have a Democratic Congress, but he still has to work on both sides of the aisle. So I'm really excited. I'm looking forward to him taking that oath of office, to Vice President Harris taking that oath of office, and then she's swearing in some senators. And I'm excited for them to get going. And we look forward to working with the federal government. Our Congresswoman Alyssa Slotkin, our U.S. Senators Gary Peters and Debbie Stabenow are going to have tremendous influence, and that is great for Lansing. It's great for Michigan. So I'm very excited for what's going to come for the next few years.
And with that, knowing today, are you kind of holding your breath in a way today, wondering, are we going to have an attack today? Or do you also wonder, are they going to wait until the attention is off of them? And today is the day that the city of Lansing is attacked.
Right. Yes and yes. Right. So, yeah, we want to nervous about today just because we know there are people who are upset still. We didn't see anything materialize on Sunday, and that's good. We were ready, and we're ready today. And if nothing comes today, we're kind of on high alert for a while to see what happens. There are those people out there who are just very upset, and we want to make sure that we're keeping everyone safe in Lansing, whether you live here, work here. We want to keep the city safe, property. We want to make sure that no one's destroying our buildings. So we're on alert. Maybe not as high alert as we were on Sunday. Again, we don't have Humvees and things on blocking streets, but we're certainly on alert for that. It's going to continue to be a concern.
Well, we're all holding our breath, and we're hoping that it is going to be a quiet a day, but also a day for us to transition into the new administration, because the one thing that is violence doesn't serve anything. And even like when you attack public buildings, people don't understand. Repairing those come out of our tax dollars. So if anything, if you care about America and you care about the end of, where the buck stops, it stops with us and our taxpayers, and save our tax dollars. We have other things that we need to spend that on. With that, I do want to ask you though, because you are a politician, and with that, can the two sides start to come together and make some type of compromise to get work done?
Yeah, I believe so. I've always believed that. Maybe I'm naive, but I've always believed that. When I was in the legislature, I worked very closely on the other side of the aisle. Of course, I was in the minority, but I still thought that was important. I think so. And I think Joe Biden is really the person who can get that done. He spent his career in the Senate working on both sides of the aisle, both in the majority and the minority. As long as people can, at least for some time, put the politics aside, I absolutely think so. When President Obama was there, you heard Leader McConnell say, we're not going to pass anything because we want to win the presidency, things like that. They divide the nation. And then for the last 4 years, clearly President Trump has been someone who has divided the nation. I think Joe Biden is going to be a president that can bring the nation together, just from his history. And I'm very optimistic, and I'm one of those people that would like to see that happen.
So can you give us a peek behind the curtains? As someone who has been a politician, we're on the outside and we see the public persona that is displayed to the public. But really, do politicians come together behind the curtains to try to work on these issues, and we just don't maybe see it because they have to save face with their political party?
A lot of it is relationships. When I got elected to the House, I met with the committee chairs for the committees that I was on. I met with the Speaker of the House at the time, and I indicated, look, I'm a Democrat and I'm in a Democratic seat. You're not knocking me off. It's a 65% Democratic seat. I want to work with you. There's some times where I'm not going to agree with you, and there are some times when I can work with you. And that worked really well. Again, it was building relationships. It's building trust. My last month in the House, I got a bill passed that would allow for dollars for grocery stores in commercial and downtown and urban areas. And there were 24 Republicans that voted against it. And the only reason that bill came up was because I had a good relationship with the Speaker of the House. I had worked with him on something, and he said, okay, I don't support your bill, but I will bring it up. It passed, and now we've got a brand new Meijer store in the downtown Lansing, and they use that incentive. It's relationships, it's trust, it's knowing that we're not always going to agree, but you can agree to disagree sometimes, and you can do it in a respectful manner. And I think that is the most important thing. That's what I did. That's what I think, again, President Biden did when he was in the Senate. I see Gary Peters and Debbie Stabenow doing that. Debbie Stabenow helped to pass the Farm Act. Gary's going to be the Homeland Security Chair. I see Alyssa Slotkin doing that as a moderate Democrat in the House of Representatives. Those are the people that I think really get things done.
And with that, before we let you go, because you are in your first term as the mayor, it's been a transition, I would imagine, for you as well. But are you going to be running for re-election?
We're going to make that announcement soon. I've got more time as mayor before I'm going to inject the politics into things. So that announcement will be coming pretty soon.
We were hoping to get a little bit of news out of you, new news, but we understand.
My media here would kill me if I announced that in the Detroit area. So, sorry.
Right.
It was a good try, though. But, we will have an announcement coming soon.
But, we could say, at one time I actually used to work in Lansing. I will say I was horrible. I did weekend weather for Fox 47. I knew nothing about weather. I bought the book Weather for Dummies.
It's snowing. It's snowing. That's easy.
Walk outdoors, right? So if you ever, I could be your friend. So feel free to share with me. Do you want to run for re-election?
We'll have the announcement soon. I love my job. I love serving the people. And, it's been quite a 3 years, 2 years of growth and then 1 year of pretty significant crisis. So it's been unique, but I enjoy it, and it's challenging, and we're getting the job done, growing the city of Lansing. So I hope all of your viewers and listeners will come to Lansing as soon as they can, as soon as they're allowed. Come to Lansing, enjoy the state capitol. Thanks so much.
Challenging has probably been the understatement for this past year. But with that, Andy Schor with us. He's the mayor for the city of Lansing. We so appreciate your time. But quickly, before we let you go, anything that maybe I didn't ask that you want to touch on?
No, there's lots of things, but right now, the focus is certainly on the inauguration, on safety in our city, and on getting going in this year and being able to grow through the crisis. And I appreciate you having me on, Ronnie, and I'm happy to do it any other time.
Thank you. And we are hoping that today is quiet there in the city of Lansing and at our state capitol as the inauguration is taking place today. Mr. Mayor, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
We're going to take a quick break here on the Megacast, and when we come back, we'll be speaking with Oakland University about enrollment as we continue to navigate the COVID-19 crisis. This is the Oakland County Megacast.
Michigan, we still need to stay careful. because we don't want to go backwards. Back to where we started. So keep standing 6 feet apart. Keep wearing a mask in public. And if you have symptoms, talk to a healthcare provider about getting tested. To move forward, let's all do our part. So stay careful. Michigan.gov/coronavirus.
Hi, I'm Dr. Faust, the Medical Director for the Oakland County Health Division. The most important thing you can do to prevent the spread of illness is to wash your hands thoroughly and often. Follow these 6 easy steps every time you wash your hands. Step 1, turn on the sink and wet your hands with warm water. Step 2, apply soap to your hands and lather between your fingers, under your nails, and the front and back of your hands and wrists. Step 3, wash your hands by scrubbing them together for at least 20 seconds. Step 4, rinse your hands with warm, clean water. And step 5, dry your hands with a clean cloth towel, a paper towel, or hot air blow dryer. If you're using a cloth towel, make sure to change it often. For handheld faucets, turn off the water using a paper towel instead of your bare hand. Step 6, if you're using a paper towel, throw it away. Practice healthy habits like washing your hands after coughing or sneezing into them to keep you and others healthy. Go to oakgov.com/health or call Nurse on Call at 1-800-848-5533 to learn more.
Great to have you with us here on the Megacast. Just as a reminder for everyone out there, maybe you're tuning in for the first time. I know it can be a little bit confusing about what exactly is the Megacast. So Dave Scott and Tyler Keefe actually designed this program and got it on the air way back in the beginning of the pandemic in March. And the goal was really to try to bring you all the information and a long interview format from some of our newsmakers and our decision makers and people of our community as we're all navigating the COVID-19 crisis. However, I don't think they ever anticipated that it was still going to be ongoing more than 10 months away. But yet here we are, and we are going to continue to be here for you. But if you are tuning in for the first time, just as a reminder, you can find us on Civic Center TV, Birmingham Area Municipal Access, as well as Channel 15 on Comcast, 99 on AT&T. You can also tune us into the radio, 89.3 Lakes FM, 88.1 FM The Biff. And then today we are also live streaming today's edition of the Oakland County Megacast on the West Bloomfield Fire Department's Facebook page. So we want to say thank you to them. One of the hardest hit areas throughout the pandemic has been education. And more than 10 months into this crisis, we are still navigating on what is the best practice to be able to educate our kids, not just those in the lower grades, but also college students. So many college students are remote right now. And to talk a little bit more about this, we're going to bring in Dawn Abury. She's the Vice President for Enrollment Management over at Oakland University. Dawn, thanks for being with us.
I'm happy to be here. Good morning, Ronnie.
So before we get into, I know we want to talk about the Frontline Workers Scholarship Program, which we've talked about before here on the show. But before we get into that, can you tell us what you're seeing as far as the trend of college enrollment when it comes to the pandemic right now?
Absolutely. We are definitely noticing several trends. And, one of those are students that are questioning if college is for them. And, we have several family members and students also questioning, how are they going to pay for college? And so our team at the university is having to answer those questions. And then finally, is it safe on campus? And what are you doing to keep my son or daughter safe or myself safe as they're studying? So those are three trends and opportunities for us to help support students. And I will tell you, to me, one of the most important things is to help reinforce for students that this is a good time to still go to college, and that, they are going to have opportunities if they stay in there. Number one, they'll be utilizing the time to earn a degree and hopefully get themselves right on track to start that first job after they graduate. And they will not lose salary earnings if they delay that education. So those are very important things. The other thing is to work with the university so we can help them make it affordable. And filling out the FAFSA is obviously one of those ways. We have a lot of families whose incomes have been changed and they may qualify for both federal aid and also institutional aid. And finally, we have emergency funds available to help support students that need some extra money to help them address other concerns, such as food insecurity. Sometimes they need maybe some technology because they're sharing at home. And, at Oakland, we are able to assist them to overcome some of those challenges. I hope that helps you get a picture of some of the things that we're seeing.
It definitely does. And when we talk about families that their income has changed, how does that actually work? Because so many grants and other forms of financial aid are based on your W-2. But if your W-2 is based on your old salary and you have a new salary, maybe you're underemployed, is there a way for them to factor that into what they're going through right now?
Absolutely. I always encourage families to approach their financial aid office. There are ways that they can ask for a special circumstance and to explain what has occurred. So the financial aid officers can walk them through that, and they can help them, secure other funding. Additionally, there are university departments that sometimes will have other awards that a student might qualify for, and they might not even know about it. And of course, our financial aid office are experts, and they know which funds, and some could be need-based, obviously, and then some could also be merit-based. So they're really one of the best resources that families can work with and describe their situation.
Yeah, there are so many grants available out there, and a lot of you just don't know about them.
Honestly, that is so true. And then, of course, we were able to get some of the CARES funding, and we're getting ready for HERF 2. And the university is looking to see how we can support our students and, what criteria we'll have to meet. So since there usually is some federal criteria that they will ask us to adhere to, but we'll be happy, to share that as soon as we have some more information in the next few weeks.
Yeah, so I like how you word it. Some criteria. No, it's called strings are attached to that money.
There could be, as you know, there was the first time, but we're hearing some positive things that there might be less strings attached. So we're hopeful, and it's always important to stay tuned and listen to our new Secretary of Education, since they are usually responsible for helping to explain that.
This has been such a confusing time for so many people, but I will say one thing that is coming out of this. We've heard a lot about frontline workers and the support for them and scholarships that are being offered. How does that actually work, and who is available for those?
Absolutely. Well, the state of Michigan has an amazing program to support the frontline workers to help these folks actually earn an associate's degree, whether they had already started community college or not. They have specific criteria, and that deadline was, I believe, at the end of December. So as we were talking about, what we could do as a university to help support this governor's initiative and really help these folks moving forward, because they've helped us throughout the pandemic, it was important for us to do something to support them. We decided, too, that it's important that some of these folks earn their bachelor's degrees, and many of them have a dream of earning their bachelor's degree, but because the cost of education, is expensive, they might not have the means. So we thought we should create an award which serves as an extension of the statewide Futures for Frontliners initiative. It also would serve the Oakland University mission of supporting post-secondary degree attainment and impacting Michigan and, the world beyond, with our education research scholarship and creative activity. So, we had a group of admissions and financial aid folks, our institutional research folks, And we worked with our executive enrollment committee to come up with a proposal, which was ultimately accepted. And we said, this is something we've got to do. We decided to create a $2,500 scholarship award to provide for those that were approved for the Michigan Frontliner Award. And they just have to earn their associate's degree or a minimum of 62 college credits and enroll at Oakland University between this summer, 2021, and the fall of the 2024 semester. And we, I believe, are the first university to offer that to all of the Michigan, 28 of them, right, community colleges. So we're really excited to do that. And this award can also be stacked with our other transfer, merit, and need-based awards, so that there's other funding available aside from this new award too, which I think that's great news to the frontline workers.
And so with that, Donna, don't get me wrong, $2,500, I'll take it if I'm struggling, right? Yeah. But I was surprised, like I went to sign up for a class like through a community college last year, just as like an adult education. I couldn't believe the cost of college right now. I don't have any kids. I have a dog who's not going to go to college, which is a good thing right now for me. But with that, $2,500 is not really going to go that far. And I know that you want them to team it up with some of these other grants and scholarships. So is that enough to actually help these people who are struggling? Because we're really talking about what, like grocery store workers, because we do know that a lot of people that are on the front lines of the healthcare industry, a lot of them already have their bachelor's when we're talking about the people in the hospitals. So this is really what aimed at grocery store workers and some of the people, and is it only for certain programs as well?
Sure. Well, per the state of Michigan, they're defining those workers that worked in an essential industry. So yes, grocery stores, restaurants, waste management, personal protective equipment, folks, those that manufactured them, public transportation, critical police and fire. And actually a lot of those students don't have a 4-year degree. So, and even maybe you'll have an RN, but they don't have their BSN, they don't have their Bachelor of Science in Nursing. So there are many folks that would definitely be benefited by earning a degree. And yes, you are right. Tuition is expensive. Investing in a 4-year degree is quite expensive, but now having the governor's program, which can help offset those costs. So some of them will actually get 2 years tuition free at the community college. I think that will help them to better afford the 4-year degree. The other thing is a lot of these folks, because they are in a lower income, will qualify for federal aid. So they could get a Pell Grant. They could get some other funding. So it's important, again, a lot of these folks, for them to be connected with folks that understand the financial aid process, and we can walk them through. We obviously don't want to help people create large debt. We want them to afford this education and have it pay off for them.
Yeah, and that's what we need to understand too. There's a big difference when we're talking about grants too. We want students to understand there's a responsible way to try to go to college, but you also need to look at the industry that you're going into and how much that degree is going to pay off. And I'm just saying, coming from journalism, typically, just to let people know, your first job out of college might be right now in the low 20s. And so if you owe $75,000, $80,000 in college loans, you're going to have a hard time paying those off if you're thinking about going into journalism. So with students, they really need to kind of do their research as well and look into some of these things, because we also have to remember college is a business too. You guys have expenses. And it costs to have to be able to offer these programs and these degrees. And so there is an expense with that, and people need to outweigh, because the big push right now too, not only here in the state of Michigan, but also across the country, has to do with the trade industry and trying to get more students into the trade industry? And do you find there's kind of a competition right now because of COVID and the pandemic that students are leaning more towards the community college pathway?
Well, I definitely think there's always been choices for students to make. And I really look at the community colleges as partners because we do offer some of the similar course offerings. Like, for example, our general ed, they offer a lot of the general ed, but in terms of four-year degrees, very few community colleges can offer a four-year degree. And, at Oakland, because we have faculty that are PhDs and they do conduct research, that definitely distinguishes us. But we do partner with them. And I think we're both committed to helping families, support themselves and to pursue careers that maybe they didn't think were possible. And so by us talking with one another about how do we help students that are really transfer students make this experience affordable and for them to leverage, their associate's degree. And that's why we even have reverse transfer agreements. We're getting much better at talking with one another and making sure we can accept the credits and that our faculty collaborate too. This is something I think is so critical. This is before the pandemic. It was important, but now more than ever to work together and obviously to talk about funding for education. I would think even though the community colleges are supported by their county and the state, they still have some of the same challenges as the university does. And clearly their tuition is set at a lower rate than a university, but they're also, especially during the pandemic, finding that they're having other expenses to upscale some of the things that they've been doing, especially with the expansion of the technology necessary to offer online classes and services.
So I know the current semester is underway right now, Dawn. What is the time limit for students to be able to apply and also take advantage of some of these programs?
Absolutely. Well, we're accepting applications now for this summer and fall 2021, as well as next winter 2022. And we have a free admissions application. So students can really apply anytime. And if they need assistance, we have admissions advisors that can make appointments even outside of the business hours of 8 a.m. till 5 p.m. We're very flexible with helping folks because we know folks work different hours. So, we would encourage students to obviously apply early, and that way we can work with them on securing financial aid, other scholarships and grants, but they can also, apply right close to the beginning of the semester. And so, right now we just started our winter semester. Our summer semester actually starts in May. So folks have a lot of time to go ahead and apply and get admitted, and for us to apply the Frontline Workers Scholarship as well as other awards if they qualify.
It's great that you're waiving the application fee because those can start to get expensive, especially, high school students right now that are starting the application process for college because that's, in the beginning process. But with that, what advice would you give to a student or a potential student when it comes to filling out that application? Because just because you fill out the application does not necessarily mean you're going to be accepted.
True. It's very important just for them to be honest and to give us the required information. Students can also provide supplemental information to explain if there's a situation they want us to be aware of. Perhaps they had a rough semester in high school or even in the community college. So it's an opportunity to share their story. And for them, it's really easy if they're coming from a community college. All they have to do is request that their transcript be sent to the university. And if they're coming from high school, their high school counselor can submit it. And everything is done fairly easy electronically or through US mail. And we can make decisions pretty quickly. So we have some students who submit their application and talk to us, and we can admit them usually within 24 hours. Back in the day when I was first in admissions, it could sometimes take months. And when we were getting down to weeks, it was exciting. And now literally we can do it on the spot. So we have the ability to do that. And again, if students just share their information and are honest, I find that decisions can be made pretty quickly. And if they've had, like I said, a circumstance, that they need to explain, we sometimes have a committee that review that, and that decision could take a few days.
Don, with that, for people that are considering going back to college, that because this is geared towards frontline workers, and some of these workers may have been out of school for 10, 15 plus years, but say, hey, this is the opportunity for me to change the path of my life. For those people, when you say getting transcripts, not so easy to be able to go online and just download them and send them. What advice would you give to them?
Sure. I think sometimes calling the institution that they attended, they can help them do that as well. And in many cases, they can send those, obviously, as I said, through the U.S. mail as well. And then us at Oakland, we can tell them what to do. We, again, are close partners with the 28 community colleges, and we know how students can request their transcripts to be sent. So we can absolutely assist them with that. And I think you bring up a good point, especially for those who have been out of school. We have some amazing advisors and counselors that will also meet with students virtually. When it's safe to do so, we can meet in person again. We were able to do that through part of the pandemic, but right now, to keep things safe, we are doing things virtually. And we're happy to call them if they're not comfortable or they don't have access, to a computer. So we can also walk them through those steps.
Well, Don, just as a reminder, you're listening to 89.3 WBLD Orchard Lake, 88.1 WBFH Bloomfield Hills. Dawn Abury with us here on the Megacast. She's the VP for Enrollment Management over at Oakland University. Dawn, we so appreciate your time, but before we let you go, anything maybe I didn't ask that you want to share with our audience before we let you go?
I think something important, and I know there are some folks that really are thinking about taking a gap semester or gap year. And I just want to, again, reinforce what I said a little bit earlier, that, this is a time for you to really enroll at college, and we're ready to help you and offer generous merit and need-based awards. We have outstanding faculty and staff to ensure your transition from high school or to the community college is smooth. A gap year will likely delay both your college graduation and securing your first full-time job if you aren't currently employed, and you could lose that salary. And peers who are in college this fall will have an advantage over you. And of course, the cost of your degree will likely be higher as most institutions increase tuition annually. So, and then last but not least, I think the research is clear. Some students who take a gap year do lose momentum, and they don't ever enroll or they don't return to college. So again, I would just encourage you to reach out to us. We're happy to talk with you if you are exploring a gap year. But again, my advice as someone who's been working in university supporting students through to graduation is stay in school, earn that degree, and it will definitely be to your advantage.
Well, Dawn, we so appreciate your time here on the Megacast.
Thank you so much, Ronnie. I hope you have a wonderful day.
Thank you again. And quickly, before we let you go, if people want to apply, they're thinking about applying, what is your website for them to get more information?
Sure. www.oakland.edu/apply. Or if you just go to oakland.edu and click on admissions, you'll get right to the website, and you can also read about the Frontline Workers Scholarship too. Thank you.
Great. Thank you for your time. We so appreciate it. We're going to take a quick break here on the Megacast. Still a lot to get to in the second hour. Coming up next here on the Megacast, we'll be speaking with Suzanne Levine with the Chamber of Commerce. This is the Oakland County Megacast.
Michigan, the coronavirus pandemic has put us all to the test. And now it's time to put COVID-19 to the test. As we move forward, testing will be critical. We encourage anyone who has reason to get tested to do so, those with symptoms and those without. If you are leaving home and going back to work, get tested. If you think you may have COVID-19 or you've been exposed recently through family, friends, or coworkers, get tested. Our test locator tool can help you find the right testing site that fits your needs. Even if you're looking for easy access with no cost, no prescription, and no appointment necessary, we've got you covered. Help Michigan move forward, not backward. To find a testing site or learn more, visit michigan.gov/coronavirus test. A message from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services.
The only way to beat COVID-19 is to face it.
You can't get too comfortable.
You can't forget the danger.
Wear the mask.
Wear the mask.
Wear the mask. Wash your hands.
Keep a safe distance.
Especially in the next few months.
You know we'll get back to normal.
We'll get back to normal.
We'll get back to normal.
Someday.
But not yet.
Not yet.
Not yet.
But not yet.
But not yet.
Consider virtual gatherings for the holidays.
Curbside food orders.
Grocery delivery.
And shopping local.
Shop local.
And especially shopping local.
Let's beat this virus. We can if we face it together.
Together.
Together. Together.
Together.
Together.
Together.
Together. Together.
Together.
Together.
For the latest information, visit oakgov.com/COVID.
Great to have you with us on the second hour of the Oakland County Megacast. For those that may be tuning in for the very first time, we want to say thank you. And as a reminder, if you missed a portion of today's show, or if you just want to click on quick interviews that we've done in the past, you can find all that information if you just go to civiccentertv.com. There, if you click on the Megacast, you'll find our full episodes, previous episodes, but we also break it down into clips and individual interviews as well. And we are so lucky to have so many great people to take time out of their day to be with us here on the Megacast. And one of those people with us right now, Suzanne Levine. She's the Executive Director for the Greater West Bloomfield Chamber of Commerce. And I will say, Suzanne, I think the chambers, not only here in West Bloomfield, but across the state of Michigan, you all have been the lifeline during the COVID-19 crisis for so many of our businesses.
Good morning. And you look marvelous, by the way.
Thank you. It's all about the lighting.
I have to get some of that lighting here.
My husband, every day, he'll go and he'll watch the show and then comes in and he tweaks it a little bit here, a little bit there. It's like, it takes 3 or 4 different lighting setups here, Suzanne, trust me.
That's great. That's great. Yes, I'm really thrilled at how all the chambers have come together. And we often speak about what we can do or some new initiatives. But the bottom line is that we are here to serve the community. And hopefully, when we come out of this dark tunnel, that there will be a lot of light and prosperity and stories to tell our children and grandchildren about, oh, remember the time.
It is. Remember the time we walked 4 miles in the snow during the 76 snowstorm? But these stories are going to be so much greater and so much more important. But with that, you recently did introduce some new members to the chamber there in West Bloomfield. And with that, though, what advice do you have for them coming in during the pandemic?
You're talking about the board members, correct?
Yes. I'm sorry.
Well, no, that's okay. I think the advice that I would give them is that they are going to be much more needed in our community for advice, their wealth of experience. And I think I mentioned on the show that one of my new initiatives is to actually connect our chamber members. They're going to be assigned a board member. So this is someone that they can use as a resource, perhaps for advice, suggestions, or maybe they can do some, mutual business. But I think it's really important for our community now to understand that our board of directors is the backbone of our chamber. And so they've sort of played kind of like a hidden role, supporting my efforts. but now I want them to be more proactive because we could use all the help that we can get.
And you have some great new board members, but with that as well, we hear a lot about pandemic fatigue. Are you experiencing that as well as someone who's in charge and helping businesses kind of navigate this crisis going into 10 plus months?
Yes, I think the businesses are weary because there doesn't seem to be an end in sight. I know that Whitmer has loosened some of the lockdown restrictions. I think some of the gyms were able to open and the indoor seating for the restaurants. Unfortunately, because we live in a climate that isn't conducive to being outdoors, I think it's exacerbated some of this pandemic fatigue. I have relatives in Florida that don't seem to be, feeling the same pandemic fatigue. So yes, and so we're trying to figure out ways that we can maybe hybrid or transition into some outdoor safe activities until we get the all clear, whenever that may be.
That is such a good point, because I'm seeing a lot of people on my social media feeds, and they're going to some of these other states just to get a break from Michigan and some of our restrictions, because other states don't have the same restrictions. And it's almost like it's not just to go out to eat. This is more than being able to eat outdoors. It's a mental reset for them.
Absolutely. I don't think anyone really understood what kind of social animal we all are, that we really need that connection. I notice that if I'm even in line someplace, people will just start talking to me. In fact, they give me information that maybe I don't want to. Like, what am I supposed to do with this? I'm sorry, your marriage is falling apart. So I think people are so desperate and hungry for that human connection that we need to figure out a way. And I really don't like the word, social distance. I think they should have said physical distance, because that really is what it is. And we have to be physically distant, from people, but the social, no, we need this connection. We need to, I feel bad for the seniors that are in assisted living homes, because they haven't had that contact. And we know that that emotional support is so critical, especially during these times.
I love that you just said that, because I never thought of it before, but physical distance rather than social distance. And it is about how we frame some of these words. And I believe the Detroit News today had an article on about our seniors. And one of the reasons they're having such a hard time trying to even attempt to get the vaccine is because we have to remember there is a large section of our population that they are not on the internet. They are not comfortable with the internet. I know some of my neighborhood activists from Detroit I used to work with on stories in Detroit. I'm still in contact with them. They're not even comfortable texting. And we're telling them everything has been pushed to this online platform. And I would imagine over this past year, we've heard a lot of conversations, or behind the scenes are a lot of conversations going on with some of the business owners that too are old school in the way that they operate, and they are not up to speed on technology, and they're not comfortable with technology as well.
Right. I know that, part of it is, yes, they're fearful. Unlike the younger generations that they just pick up an iPad or a remote or good on the computer, they're not afraid of breaking anything. But, the older generation is sort of like Ralph Rex the internet. So I think they're fearful, and they need to be educated and trained. And it would be great if we could have people go into these assisted living, because these people are still pretty with it. They just are physically unable maybe to, take care of themselves or cook for themselves. But it would be great if they could have some classes and some training to show you don't have to be afraid. This is a great way to connect with, your cousin in California, or someone even, in another country. And I noticed that we have a little bit of an issue with our senior resource group. We used to do these talk times, and they were in person at our fabulous Connect through West Bloomfield Parks and Rec. And when we have the Talk Times virtually, we do not get the same audience. Where we were getting 30 to 40, people in person, we're getting maybe 5 to 10 online. So yes, I think there's, we have to have some sort of education process for them. I think it's really important because they need to be connected. How horrible must it feel for this group that feels so isolated to begin with, and now not to be able to see their loved ones or their grandkids, which brings them such great joy.
That is such a good point. And they are a group that we need to be able to reach out to and connect with as well. Suzanne, knowing that, what is the future for local businesses here going into 2021? What advice would you give them? Because we're still in the midst of this.
Right. And I think we're going to be in the midst of it for a while. I know that you touched briefly on, there are all these grants, PPP, employer retention tax credits that people should be applying for. They can go to oak.gov, they can go to the state of Michigan. We did send out an e-blast yesterday with some links. And I know it's kind of daunting, the paperwork and trying to get in, but it's definitely worth it. So if they can, try to ask their accountant, or they can go to Oakland County One-Stop Business Center. They can give them some referrals, but they really should look into these. There's a separate grant for venues, for entertainment venues. So they should take advantage of this to try to tide them over until, we understand really what's going to happen. But I do believe once things can really reopen, there's going to be a flood of people going into stores, going into venues, because like you say, this pandemic fatigue, people are very anxious and hungry for, being out. I even noticed last year, like in April, in my neighborhood, I didn't even know that we had half these neighbors. I've never seen them before. It's like, I've lived here for over 20 years and I didn't know that you were my neighbor. Very different than when we were growing up, where all the kids played outside. Now everyone was inside with the computers and technology. Now we're sick of it. Now that we're forced to use it, we're tired of it. Isn't that interesting? Before it was kind of like, oh, this is great. And now it's like, no, this is not the way that I want to live my life, being in front of a computer screen 24/7.
We are all zoomed out. And the thing is I'm only on it a few hours a day. I couldn't imagine business people, and they're working till 7 to 8 o'clock at night, but also some of the students on top of that. And then we're asking them, hey, let's do all these events virtual on top of that as well. So if we can kind of go back quickly to some of the grants, because the grants that are available, they make for a great headline for our politicians, but actually being able to get through to apply, and then once you do apply, getting that full allotment of the grant, because you'll notice a lot of times too, they say the wording is up to a certain amount. And even if we're looking at some of our businesses that have had to close during this latest pause, if you're saying, hey, $20,000, $20,000 is great. But for a lot of them, that is not even a drop in the bucket for them and trying to catch up during this pandemic. But what advice would you give to some of these businesses? Are there other grants available that are out there that maybe don't make the headlines?
Well, I think that employee retention tax credit hasn't gotten quite the play. And I was advised to contact our payroll company or your accountant to find out how you can qualify, because this is actually a tax credit. So it's pretty amazing. And it's not the same kind of thing where there's only going to be so much of it. I think it can apply to everyone who has a business and obviously employees. I know it's pretty frustrating because I applied for several grants, but chambers are in a weird category because we're a nonprofit, but that's still a strange category, and we didn't qualify for a lot of them. But now this new one that just released, and I got on at 9:01. I tried to get on at 9, and I was 2,400 in the queue. I know people that were 4,000 and 8,000. They didn't get on till 5:30 at night but they did get on. Now they claim it's not first come, first serve, but I would love to know what the real criteria is, how they decide how to allot this money, because I know from some of the other grants, you can look at who got them, and sometimes it's a bit surprising. Like, really, this person is always boasting how wealthy they are and they got this grant, and then, other small businesses that really could use even 5,000, it'll still sustain them for a small amount of time. I think in addition to the grants, everyone has to kind of look at their business and reinvent themselves. I always was a big person on reinvention anyway. I think that there are no jobs for life anymore, and there are no career paths for life, just as there's no businesses for life. Who would predict that, if you invested in Clorox and wipes and masks, that you could be a multimillionaire? That's something we really, didn't even think about. Or even, a lot of the gyms now, because a lot of people have gone online to do their classes online. So they're going to have to rethink their model as well. Maybe having a hybrid of a combination of online classes as well in the gym. So I think that, everyone has to kind of look at their business model. And if we could be a futurist and really predict, what's going to be the next big thing. But, contact, as I say, not only, chambers, your local chambers, because we have a lot of resources, but Oakland County has this one-stop, shop business center. It's free, and they can look at your business plan. They can tell you, well, there's too many hair salons in your area. Maybe you shouldn't think about opening there. They're amazing. And this is like a fabulous resource through Oakland County. People are not using, and they should.
And that is the beautiful thing about the chamber, but also a lot of credit to you, Suzanne, throughout the pandemic, because you have been working countless hours trying to bring some of these business owners together and also connecting them to these resources so that they can survive. So we want to say thank you for your dedication to the community as well, because we know small businesses are the backbone of our communities, especially small communities such as the ones that we live in. So thank you, Suzanne, for all of your hard work.
Of course. I mean, that's, I wish I could invent a cure for COVID, cancer, and all the problems of this world. But if I can keep someone in business another month, year, forever, then, I've done a really great job. So that's my goal, is to try to keep businesses, to sustain them and hopefully thrive at the end of all of this.
Well, we thank you so much. And let's say cheers and hopefully to a better 2021, right?
Absolutely. And it was great seeing you. You're doing a fabulous job. We're very appreciative too of Civic Center TV and Motown Digital, because you're giving us information, and it's really important. We need an alternative to the news.
Well, thank you for that. I will say 20 plus years in the news industry, but doing this show each and every day, I learn something new every day. So I hope our audience takes the time out to be able to listen to some of the interviews and they get something from it as well. Suzanne, great to see you. We'll have to get together in person at some point in time when the restrictions are lifted, right?
Absolutely, for a cup of coffee or a cup of something else.
An igloo is in our future.
Absolutely, I predict.
Suzanne, thank you for your time. We're going to take a quick break here on the Megacast. When we come back, Coach Ron Bellamy will be with us here on the Megacast. Thank you for tuning in.
Perry tested positive for COVID-19. Emma was exposed to a friend who's positive. Willa's waiting on test results. After any contact with COVID-19, or if you test positive, stay home for at least 10 days. If you live with others, keep your distance and wear a mask. Help Michigan contain COVID-19. Visit michigan.gov/contain-COVID.
COVID-19 has caused many families to fall behind on finances and on groceries, but you're not alone. You shouldn't have to worry about putting food on the table. My Bridges offers access to quality food and income assistance to help families across the state get the food support they need. It's easy to apply and easy to start shopping. Apply for services at michigan.gov/MIBridges. A message from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services. Michigan, we're calling on you to save lives. Don't ignore it. Don't let it go to voicemail. It's urgent. In fact, it's critical. Because if you've been in close contact with someone who tests positive for COVID-19, you may have been exposed to the virus. And you could get a call from My COVID Help or your local health department. So please answer the call to learn how to protect yourself, your family, and friends. We're calling on you to stop the spread of COVID-19, to make it safe to reopen businesses and help Michigan move forward. So if you get a call from My COVID Help or your local health department, you may have been exposed to someone with COVID-19. To protect us all, answer the call. Learn more at michigan.gov/containcovid. A message from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services.
Hi, my name is Kurt Lawson, and I'm the Public Information Officer for West Bloomfield Township. We wanted to reach out to you, our older adults, to provide information that you may find useful during this difficult time. We want to ensure you that West Bloomfield Town Hall, our Waters and Utility Department, West Bloomfield Parks, and our police and fire departments continue to work hard on your behalf. Information and resources can be found on the Township website, the police Facebook and Twitter, or call West Bloomfield Park's COVID-19 Help Hotline. Please remember to keep your social distance of at least 6 feet, wear facial coverings when you leave your home, and wash your hands for at least 20 seconds with soap. These precautions will help keep you safe during these difficult times.
Great to have you with us here on the Megacast. We want to extend our thanks to the West Bloomfield Fire Department for allowing us to live stream today's edition of the Megacast on their Facebook page. And of course, you guys know I'm going to do a shout out to the fire department. As some of you may know, we had a small electrical fire here in my house in Keagle Harbor Tuesday? Was it Tuesday? The days are running together. While I was actually live doing the show, I was smelling smoke and I was home by myself and had to throw the show over to Tyler. Made a 911 call, and within minutes, the police department, Keagle Harbor Police Department, but the West Bloomfield Fire Department also responded, and they were fabulous in helping me put my concerns at rest. But they were great, so we want to say thank you to them. We're lucky to have them in our community, because as someone who has covered the city of Detroit for years on end, I will say being able to call 911 and getting a quick response means a lot. So we want to say thank you to them. We also want to say thank you to our next guest, because even in these trying times, he has never lost his positivity and his leadership. Ron Bellamy with us here on the Megacast. He's the head varsity football coach for the West Bloomfield High School football team, but also a teacher as well. Coach, thank you for being with us here on the Megacast.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
And congratulations on your win this past weekend, and our fingers crossed for an even bigger win this Saturday at Ford Field.
Oh yeah, what a great game. What a great football game last Saturday against Belleville. And we were super excited to be Ford Field bound and playing for a championship.
With that, Coach, I have to say, did you think you would even get to the playoff game? Given all of the events that have unplayed this year, the stop, the start, the stop, the start, what did that do to your teammates mentally? It's one thing in the beginning of the season, but the playoff season has been a challenge in itself as well.
Yeah, it was mentally exhausting for players and coaches. It was one of those things where, throughout the football season when we played in the fall, a lot of the kids struggled making the transition from online school, and now you're adding football to it. And, we're telling kids they can't hang around their family members and, different things of that nature. So it was a struggle, but I'm super proud of the kids that persevered and they're here now. But I was very optimistic, throughout the season that we could get it done. And then once we shut down the first time, I lost a lot of hope. I'll be the first one to tell you, but nonetheless, we made it through.
It was quite the game. I'm not a sports person, but it was a close game. It was a great game. what did that do for the the team, like their mental well-being? Did it boost them up to say, we got this?
Oh, without question. The kids, we played Belleville 2 years in a row, and they've had our number. They were the better team those 2 days. And once we made the last play of the game to persevere to win, man, I haven't seen those smiles in a very long time, and that's what it's all about. We told the kids in pregame, I told them in my pregame speech, we're here to create memories, and this is by far the greatest memory in their high school careers.
And do you think those memories mean even more this year because of everything that we've been through over the past 10 months?
Without question. Ronnie, the sacrifices that these young men have made, it's, Ronnie, I told them, in the summertime, they couldn't, 4th of July, you usually go to barbecues, you hang out, you're telling the kids they can't do that. Telling the kids during Thanksgiving time, you can't hang out with extended family, Christmas time, you can't do this. And I feel awful telling the kids, you have to make sure your circle's very tight, and the kids have done everything that they're supposed to do. We get COVID tests 3 times a week. So, we have to be on our A game. And to tell 14 through 17, 18-year-old young men not to hang around friends outside of the program, that's tough mentally. But those kids, they did what they had to do, and that's why we're here.
So, Coach, I will say I'm a highlight sports person. I always say, why do I need to watch the entire game when I can get the highlights in 30 seconds? Which is funny since I'm married to a sports guy. So with that, I'm going to let Tyler take over the interview because he can actually ask you the real questions that probably you want to answer.
Okay, sounds good.
So, Coach, going into that game, coming out of the Romeo game, we heard your audio in the scrum at the end with your players and with your coaches. And a lot of what was said going into that Belleville game was, this is personal. This is what we've been looking forward to. They've crushed our dreams the last 2 years, and now it's our turn, and it's our job to go in there and return the favor. And your team did end up playing with a whole lot of determination and a lot of toughness in that game. Speak to how the motivation factor for these guys, especially the guys that have been there over these last 3 years, coming into that game, having experienced the heartbreak of close games in the past 2 years, and how that helped elevate your team last weekend.
Yeah, you know what? We didn't need too much motivation, Tyler. As you know, the way we've lost to them the last 2 years, having double-digit leads and relinquishing those. But the motivation was for us to make it to Ford Field, and I think that was enough. We just had to clean up some mistakes and make sure that the kids were locked in and focused on their assignments. And they played a great game. That Belleville team is one of the best in the state, and we were fortunate that we were able to escape with a 1-point victory.
Yeah, and in that game, you have guys that have already ready to move on to the next level, guys that have commitments to D1 schools, most notably, of course, Maxwell Hairston going to the University of Kentucky, and Donovan Edwards, who had a great game, 18 carries, 155 yards, 3 touchdowns at Belleville last week, Saturday. And speak to his leadership, to Donovan's leadership, because he does go down in that game with an ankle injury and still comes back a few plays later and is still playing with a head of steam, as he always does, whether it's the first down of the first game of the year or the state championship game. Speak to his leadership and how that trickles down to the younger guys on the team and elevates everybody and helps everybody elevate each other as we get further on into the season and now go into a state championship game.
Yeah, Donovan is one of the greatest players that we've ever had at West Bloomfield, in the history of West Bloomfield high school football. Obviously I've only been in West Bloomfield for 12 years, but I feel very strong making that comment. But Donovan is the area I think that he's flourished the most is his leadership. For 17-year-old kids, man, it's everyone looks at the athletic ability, you look at the talent, and I look at those traits that he's developed, and that was able to carry our team to victory on last Saturday. He actually didn't have an ankle injury. He was cramping up, and he had full body cramps, and him and Dylan Tatum were having the same thing. And he overcame that. He fought through it, and it's going to have to take something very extreme for him not to be on that football field. And He's the heart and soul of our football team. He's the leader. This is his second state championship game that he's playing in, and I wouldn't trade him for anyone.
That defense of yours has been virtually unstoppable this entire season, and going up against a team that has equally as much firepower on the offensive end, came in with very similar numbers both offensively and defensively in comparison to your team in this season, and having a defensive game as you had. I mean, tough matchups. Niles King and other guys on the edge having to go up against a guy like Damon Payne is not an easy task on any day or in any game. And especially as we saw on that last play in double overtime, they got great pressure on Christian Dureed, who's a great quarterback in his own right, a state record holder, and came up big to ultimately lead to that final play going in your favor and sending your team to the state championship.
Yeah, you know what? We love to we love to play against the best. Tyler, you cover us weekly, and you know that the OAA Red prepares you for this postseason. It prepares you for championship runs. And the success we're having is due to the fact that we play an extremely tough league. And our league prepared us for this moment. In regards to our kids, kudos to Niles, man. Those guys him and Chris Johnson had their work cut out for them going against Damon Payne and going against Jacoby Watkins. And it was actually Damon Payne's side that Niles made a great read, and he was able to, Drew Reed is only 5'8", 5'9", and Miles King is 6'4". So he was able to get that long body in front of him and alter the throw, and just enough that he couldn't throw an accurate pass, and that preserved the victory. So we love our kids. We love the way we've been able to develop them, and we love the fact that our kids, they live in no regret. They're gonna play their hearts out, and they're gonna leave everything on that football field.
This weekend coming up at 1 o'clock on Saturday, you're going up against another incredible team, very similar to yours, very similar to Belleville's, an undefeated team in Davison, the Davison Cardinals, for the Division I state championship. What should people in West Bloomfield coming into this game know about that Cardinals team, and what can they expect for our Lakers to be matching up against on Saturday?
Yeah, their coach, Jake Weingarten, he does a phenomenal job. They are the defending Division I state champions. They are winners of 15 games in a row, dating back to last year. So they're a team that definitely we respect. They do things the right way. They're tough. They're big. They're physical. They don't beat themselves. They don't make many mistakes. And coach has them well prepared in a weekly day, week in and week out when you watch the film. And it's going to be an incredible challenge for us. And we're going to have to bring our A game if we want to come out with the victory.
Playing in the state championship game, this team, last time they were there was 3 years ago in that historic 3-2 loss to the Clarkston Wolves in one of the more interesting football games and defensive matchups we've ever seen in the Division I state football championship. Some of those guys were around to see and experience that state championship appearance and that grudge match against an OAA Red Division rival. And some of them now are getting back in their senior year with an opportunity to finish the job. What do you say to your guys in the locker room as they're preparing for the biggest stage in Division I football in the state of Michigan, vying for a championship, as they prepare themselves mentally, as they prepare themselves physically, and from a game plan standpoint to play for a championship?
Be true to yourselves. What got you to this point? Make sure you're the best version of that. I think far too often coaches try to change who they are, for a particular game, and I don't think that's the case. For us, we just tell our kids to continue to lock in and be safe. We're still getting, we're still in the COVID protocol, so we're still getting tested and whatnot, and we just want to make sure that we're playing at a high level, we're executing, and we're doing the things necessary. That when the game kicks off at 1 p.m. on Saturday, we're mentally and physically prepared.
Your team, as the season's gone on, has become more deep and more versatile. Guys are stepping up. I think of the play last weekend where we saw earlier on in the game a very similar play be ran, where it's a reverse that goes to Samaj Morgan, and Samaj Morgan is then filling the role as the quarterback and attempting to throw the ball to the quarterback Alex Short. It came up unsuccessful the first try, and then the second time around, excellent blocking, excellent route running, and he makes a great read at a split second and kind of fakes out the defense, whether intentionally or not, by stumbling similarly to what we saw the first time around, and then that allows, with the hesitation in the secondary, for Alex Short to be wide open. We're seeing that kind of versatility from a lot of players throughout the depth chart, whether they're in that first string or they're coming in as a substitution. Guys down the line like Samaj Morgan, like Malik Mathea, like Marcus Carter, who had a great game as well against Belleville in his role. How important is depth for a team like yours going up against a team like Davison in the state championship game?
Yeah, you know what, man? We call it strength in numbers. You're as good as your weakest link, and we want to make sure we have no weak links. You know, all our kids prepare like they're starters, whether you have the title of a backup or whatever it may be. And our program is next man up. You know, if you work hard in practice and you prove that you're capable and dependable to execute what the assignment requires, you're going to get that opportunity. And that's why you saw so many guys. I mean, you know, a name that you didn't mention is Jaden Rembert on 3rd and 15. You know, in the fourth quarter, he caught the key comeback route. You know, that was his only catch of the game. Now, he had a couple attempts, but that was his only catch. It's arguably the biggest catch in the game, you know. Yes. So, you know, we're gonna roll kids out there, and we have the utmost confidence in them that they're going to be successful. And I think it's just the way we develop and we plan.
In southeastern Michigan, there's so many great football players, great football programs at the high school level. And after the very tough game and very competitive game last Saturday against Belleville, we saw a lot of the ranks of football and high school football in southeastern Michigan come out in support of West Bloomfield, and congratulations, including Jermaine Crowell and his Belleville team, congratulating your players, congratulating your football staff. Talk to us a little bit about the relationships that are there in the high school football community, player to player, coaching staff to coaching staff, and how that helps lift youth football and high school football in the state of Michigan to the level that it's at.
Yeah, it's you know, it's a brotherhood. You know, football is, you know, I'm biased in making this comment, but I think football is the greatest sport ever created, simply because it's the life lessons and the game. You know, it's the most team-oriented sport that you can possibly play, and you know, there's a lot of factors that go into it, and you know, one of those things is you know, relationships. And you know, when you start doing things the right way and your heart's in the right place, then people start acknowledging that. And I think my relationship with Crowell at Belleville, Coach Jermaine Crowell, is you know, it's a strong one, simply because we both have the same creed, and we're doing this for the kids, you know. And the kids see that. You know, when the kids see that there's a level of respect amongst coaches, then the kids start to respect the players more and more. And you can see that after our game against them, where their kids were crying their eyes out and our kids were there to console them. You know, that's the culture that we want to build in our program. That's what we want to be known as, you know, a program where, you know, it's built on integrity and character. And our kids have done a great job of they did a great job displaying that on Saturday.
Coach Bellamy, we thank you for being with us today, and we congratulate you and your team on getting to the state championship game. We hope to have a very good game on Saturday. We will have that, of course, broadcast here on Lakes FM. Before we let you go, anything else that you'd like to say about your team, about this opportunity coming up on Saturday?
Yeah, I just want to thank, you know, a lot of times we don't think, you know, you think about coaches and players, but I just want to say thank you to our supporting staff, you know, our administration team at the high school, you know, our parents, the sacrifices they've made. I want to thank our athletic staff. I see Michael here, you know, thank you. And, you know, thank our trainer, Amy. You know, it's important that you have those people in the background, that people don't understand how important it is to, you know, make sure that these kids are on the mend when they're injured, get them back on the field as quickly as possible. And, you know, you're able to help, you know, with the production of our team. So, I want to make sure that we publicly gave them some love, and because they're equally as important as the players and the coaches. So thank you all that, you know, share those responsibilities with us. We love you and we're grateful for you.
Coach,
yes,
go ahead, Brian.
Quickly, if I could ask you a question before we let you go. I noticed your Lions jersey hanging behind you on the wall. Any thoughts about the changes for the Detroit Lions?
Yeah. You know, I'm super excited. Dan Campbell was a former teammate of mine, so I think it's super awesome. He gets an opportunity. He's going to do a fine job. You know, Dan is a you know, he's a player's coach. You know, but he's going to demand respect and demand that everyone gives their best. So I'm super excited about the GM hire and the head coach hire, and you know, hopefully we can get this thing rolling in Detroit. Such a great sports town.
Right, and we need it. We deserve it. And with that, we do want to say too, for everyone out there who is listening, we want to let you know, though, you need to go on to DetroitLions.com and vote for Coach Bellamy for the Detroit Lions Coach of the Year. I can't believe that you are actually pretty low in the rankings right now, because you are by far not only one of the best coaches, but also one of the best leaders here in our community as well. So we need everyone to get behind you. I tweeted it out this morning. I'm on my husband. I told him we need to make it a Twitter campaign to put you in the lead.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Really do.
Well, good luck on Saturday.
Thank you, guys. See you later. Go Lakers.
Go Lakers. And with that, we're going to take a quick break here on the Megacast. We have about 15 minutes left in the show. And when we come back, we'll be speaking with Michael that you just mentioned as well. He's the director and owner for the Health Quest Physical Therapy. This is the Oakland County Megacast.
This may seem uncomfortable, but so is being hooked to an IV, sleeping in a hospital bed, and fighting for your life. When it comes to COVID-19, comfort is not as important as saving lives. Wearing a mask can greatly reduce the chance of spreading the virus. So mask up, Michigan, every time you leave home.
The Oakland County Megacast returns in 30 seconds. We do have breaking news. Vice President-elect Kamala Harris has officially been inaugurated as the next Vice President of the United States. The Megacast will return shortly.
This may seem uncomfortable, but so is being hooked to an IV, sleeping in a hospital bed, and fighting for your life. When it comes to COVID-19, comfort is not as important as saving lives. Wearing a mask can greatly reduce the chance of spreading the virus. So mask up, Michigan, every time you leave home.
Great to have you with us here on the Oakland County Megacast. Just under 15 minutes left in the show on this Wednesday, Inauguration Day. And we do want to let you know Kamala Harris has just been sworn in as the first woman, the first Black American, and the first South Asian American Vice President of the United States. Joe Biden's swearing in will be happening in just moments from now. And with that, we're going to go ahead and round out the Wednesday edition of the Oakland County Megacast by bringing in Michael Pizzamenti. He is with the Health Quest Physical Therapy. Great to have you with us, Michael.
Great to be here.
So I know the coach just mentioned you as well. Can you tell us a little bit about a Health Quest Physical Therapy and what you do for some of these athletes?
Yeah, so we're private practice outpatient orthopedic clinic located at just north of Lone Pine and Orchard Lake Road. So right down the road, it's a stone's throw away from West Bloomfield High School. So moving out here 5 years ago, I established a relationship with their athletic trainer, Amy. And then I met Coach Bell through football season. And since then, I've kind of just been assisting Amy with the medical duties on the sideline, helping the athletes rehab injuries and get them back on the field. And not only now football, but through basketball, baseball, track, volleyball, all the sports.
So not only related to some of the sports injuries and the athletes, but your overall practice. How has things changed for you and members of your team during this pandemic?
Well, I mean, tremendously. So, come March, when everything started to really hit the fan, it seemed to be like every week, we were changing things up 2 to 3 times. CDC was coming out with different guidelines, and we were just trying to keep up with all the changes. We stayed open. Well, I stayed open. I personally stayed and treated just a handful of patients, post-operative patients and people that needed PT. through the early stages, and slowly we started to build back up in the summer. So it's been a lot of safety procedures.
And like you said, the CDC and the guidelines have been changing. It's hard to keep up with. But a lot of people, maybe if they haven't been through physical therapy, they may not realize that physical therapy is a very important part of the healing process. And if you don't keep up with your physical therapy, it can sideline your recovery as well.
Well, for sure. You know, one of the things that we saw a lot of people in the summer and the fall for were people that stopped going to the gym. They were sedentary. They were working from home where they weren't at an office. They were working at their kitchen table on the couch. Then they started coming to us because they stopped being active, and they started to change the way that they moved or sat, stood, whatever it is. So we saw a lot of people with low back pain, neck pain, shoulder pain that developed because they were inactive. So physical therapy kind of set them on the right track again. And then we gave them at least as much as we could, even though the gyms were very limited this year, as you know.
That's a good a point that I didn't even think of before this interview. And we've had, several physical therapists on the show, and they haven't brought that up. And with that, have you guys been able to utilize telemedicine we're seeing in some of the other practices as well?
Yes, we're doing telemedicine, whether it's just discussing their current status, updating their home exercise program, getting them any kind of information we can, sending them videos from what we can. At least they can help optimize what they can do on their own. Physical therapy, it's tough to some degree because a lot of it has to do with the hands-on manual therapy, one-on-one time with a therapist. So it is tough to optimize completely. So we have actually done telehealth, a hybrid for a lot of patients, where we've done telehealth, once a week or so, and they come on in another time in the week, just to minimize exposure, but also to still get that hands-on that they need. And people do find a lot of benefit from that hybrid type approach.
How do people know if they're having issues and they're one of those people that maybe you mentioned that they're not going to the gym right now due to the restrictions and they're starting to feel pain? When do they know to go to a physical therapist versus going to a doctor or even a chiropractor?
So we do free pain assessments. So if you're having any kind of pain, you can come in, no obligation whatsoever. It's a 15 to 25 minute consultation. It's basically a chat, maybe a quick screen. And then from there, we kind of point them in the right direction of where they should go, whether PT is indicated, if they should go see their primary care physician, if they need to go see a specialist. There's some kind of conversation that we want to be a gatekeeper and a liaison for them in the rehab process. We do help tremendously, obviously, with the pain, but also correcting what's causing the pain is a big problem. So posturing, sitting at home, maybe educating them for a better setup at home if they might not have the opportunity to go into the office anymore, and how to strengthen certain muscles, to postural muscles too, so they don't fall into the bad habits they've fallen into in 2020.
Right, now's a good time to do that 30-day plank challenge.
Yeah, absolutely. There's no shortage of core strengthening exercises and the importance of those.
One thing we've heard a lot about during this pandemic when they did have the gyms closed was the importance of physical activity for not only our physical well-being, but also our mental well-being. What are your thoughts around for gyms being able to remain open?
So, there's a lot of mixed feelings with this topic, right? It's a hot topic, whether things should be open or things should be closed. I know personally from what we're doing at our facility, keeping people, separate, social distancing, masked up, we're washing everything down. We've spent more money on cleaning supplies than I think we're going to spend in the next decade. But things are safe at our clinic. And I personally know some gym owners that have gone out of their way, and their gym setups are very, very safe. And I've had people from the gyms comment on how safe they do feel from working out at the gym. And I can't tell you the amount of people that come into me and they're happy just to be moving around and being worked on and feeling like they're making some kind of recovery or progress. People being cooped up at home, it is depressing. And there is a large mental and emotional aspect to it too, not just physical.
What advice do you have for people who are stuck at home right now? I feel like I need a yoga class right now. Like your body starts to feel tense. What advice do you give to people who are stuck at home right now, who still maybe aren't comfortable going out?
Give HealthQuest a call. Give your gyms a call. See if they're doing some kind of telehealth or Zoom workout where you can actually, I know I go to a CrossFit gym in Bloomfield Hills, and I know that they're doing a lot of Zoom workouts. So they still have some kind of camaraderie where the same people are going into those classes and working out together from home, and they're doing as the best that they can with the equipment provided to them at home. I would just say get up and move. And I know that's hard in the winter, right? Get up and move around your house if able to. But that's part of the things that we do is educate people and educate them on, hey, you know what, things around the house that you might not have thought of, and somehow giving them some kind of home workout, even though they think they have no equipment at home. We might be able to, finagle something at home to create some kind of program for them, and then set reminders in your phone every hour, once a day, whatever it is. Get up and do something.
That's really good advice right there, and it takes nothing and it costs nothing as well. Michael Pizzaminti with us. He's the director and owner for HealthQuest Physical Therapy. Lessons learned for you and your team during this pandemic that you think are going to last post-pandemic if we ever get there.
People are good. I've learned that this year. I've always thought I've had a great team. With all the struggles this year, I have learned that I have a phenomenal team. They were able to answer the call at any time. There was no questions. It was just that everybody was yes to everything. We got you. I got their back. They got my back. Patients coming on in too. People are just so appreciative of everything. And especially this year, their appreciation does show probably even more than in years past. I think in 2020, if it taught us anything, we don't take things for granted, because they can quickly be put on hold, taken away, limited. So this year we're just much more appreciative of everybody and everything. And we have learned to really be creative in our physical therapy approach, because yes, we did have to reduce certain days and we had to limit volume in the clinic at any specific time. So yes, we do run a more limited volume at any specific time in the clinic, but I've learned how to schedule better, and we've learned how to create different exercise programs where we can separate people a little bit more. And then the whole telehealth was a new thing that I think all physical therapy. We didn't really do telehealth before. So learning how to educate people over the phone or, via Zoom, there was a learning curve there early in the year last year, but that we've kind of well oiled now, and people are appreciative of anything that we can do. So being more creative was a big thing that we learned in 2020.
I kind of think about if this conversation would be happening prior to the pandemic, saying, hey, we're going to do our physical therapy via telehealth and Zoom. People would be like, no, that's not going to work. There would be so much pushback. But just as you said, we've all learned not to take things for granted. And hopefully we all come out a little bit stronger and a little bit better at the end of this.
Yes, I think so. They're ready for it for sure. But moving forward too, again, we learned how to manage the clinic, I think, even a little bit better than we were. And I realize the strengths of my team now are even more so than I thought. So there was a lot of realization this year. So moving forward, there's a lot of lessons to be learned from this.
Hey, Michael, just another minute or so with you here on the Megacast before we let you go. Anything that maybe you want to mention that I didn't ask?
People's fear this year is at an all-time high. 2020 and even now in 2021, obviously. And just know that there are options out there for you, whether it is a gym or it is, physical therapy. We've had a lot of positive feedback from patients they came on in very nervous, and it wasn't too quickly after that where they were really confident in everything that we were doing. Private room practice, whatever it may be, we're very accommodating. So.
Well, that's great. And we've all learned that our health is the number one priority throughout this pandemic. Hey, quickly before we say goodbye, how can people find out or connect with your team?
So website, HQ as in HealthQuest, HQPT.com is our website. The clinic number that I'm located at is 248-788-6100. And we have wide hours, 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. and we're open Saturday mornings as well. Call anytime. My front office is awesome, and they can lead you in the right direction.
Well, it's been great having you with us here on the Megacast, and we wish you continued success in 2021.
Thank you so much.
Just about another minute here left on the Oakland County Megacast, and we do want to let you know that right at this time, Joe Biden is being sworn in as the 46th president of the United States. Tyler, are we able to get that audio at all right now, or do we have to wait until we go off
Not
the air?
immediately, Ronnie. No, we're not able to get it immediately because we have our Zoom for today's meeting, for today's show, pulled up on the same computer. We would be able to pull it up otherwise, but it's on the same computer, so we won't have that immediately.
So we do want to let you know, though, of course, history is being made today. Kamala Harris has been sworn in officially as the Vice President of the United States, the first woman, the first Black American, the first Asian American, also to do so and to hold that office. We will be joining the inauguration in a little bit, but we do want to say thank you to everyone for taking time out of their schedule to be with us here on the Megacast. And as a reminder, you can always catch previous interviews on civiccentertv.com. Thank you to the entire staff for bringing you the latest edition of the Megacast.